You're listening to the Dibbly Dobbly podcast. Remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the bell to make sure you get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Let's have a look at South Africa and talk about their Cricket World Cup performance in 2023 in India. And for South Africa, it was a World Cup that they achieved a lot. Unfortunately, yet again, they reached the semi-final against Australia and they weren't able to get the job done. And they would have been bitterly disappointed at that result, and they were. So South Africa in this tournament, they played some really good cricket, but up until the business end of the tournament, the semi-final against Australia, yet again, people will mention the word choking and all that stuff. Just didn't quite handle that pressure, and they fell short. But they had a really good tournament, South Africa, probably one of their best Cricket World Cup tournaments in a very long time. Many people thought they would struggle in this tournament and probably not qualify for the semis, but they proved everyone wrong. Their batting was very strong and their bowling was very good as well. So let's talk about their performance in this World Cup. Obviously, semi-finalists was their result in this tournament in 2023. In the group stage, they won 7 games and lost 2. Leading run scorer was Quinton de Kock with 594 runs. Leading wicket taker was Gerald Coetzee with 20 wickets. And let's have a look at their results during the group stage and the semi-final. Their first game of the tournament was a pretty good first game against Sri Lanka. They won by 102 runs. Then they defeated Australia by 134 runs. Then they lost to the Netherlands by 38 runs in a bit of a shock loss against the Dutch. Then they bounced back well against England, winning by 229 runs. They won against Bangladesh by 149 runs. They had that wonderful game against Pakistan where they won by a wicket. They won against New Zealand by 190 runs. And then up against the host nation in India, they lost pretty badly. They lost by 243 runs. And in the last game of the group stage, before the semi-final, they won against Afghanistan by 5 wickets. In the second semi-final against Australia, they lost by 3 wickets and they were completely outplayed by Australia in that semi-final. So that's how South Africa went about things in this World Cup. And I think for South Africa, they should be proud of their efforts. As I mentioned, good batting, good bowling, their top order, middle order, the likes of de Kock, Miller, Klaasen, Van der Dussen, Aiden Markram, the captain, Temba Bavuma, didn't really do much in this World Cup, really. But, their batting was pretty strong in this World Cup. Their bowling was pretty good as well. Gerald Coetzee, he was a bit of an unknown going into this World Cup, but he ended up taking the most wickets for South Africa in this campaign. Then you had Marco Jansen, Rabada and Ngidi who did their job. So they had all bases covered, South Africa. Their fielding was pretty good as well. They've had some challenges in this World Cup. Obviously, the shock loss to the Netherlands. Chasing. Also, the game against India, they struggled as well chasing. Well, they got bowled out for 80-odd at Eden Gardens. And then in the semi-final against Australia, they weren't able to get it done. The pressure that Australia applied on them, with the fielding and with the bowling, really put South Africa back in that semi-final. So I think South Africa will be disappointed again, knowing that we worked so hard. We played some good cricket, good performances with bat and ball. And then they had a few setbacks. Obviously, the game against the Netherlands, the game against India, and also the semi-final loss to Australia. I think they should be proud of their efforts. And I think as a team, when they look back, they say, yeah, we're disappointed that we didn't go through to the final, and after we played some good cricket, it wasn't meant to be. But we should be very proud. And knowing that, this team has certainly improved. And they certainly improved as the tournament progressed. They achieved a lot of great things, South Africa. Obviously, the next World Cup is in 2027. That will be in South Africa, Namibia, and Zimbabwe. And that will be a good opportunity for South Africa to target and look to do well at a home World Cup. I think the team that they've got, yes, some of them are getting on a bit in age and they'll have to try different players. But I think for South Africa, it's a matter of time before they win a tournament. They were so close in 2023. They were so close, but Australia were just too good in that semi-final. So I think for the home World Cup for South Africa in 2027, I think they'll be firm favourites to definitely contest the home World Cup in South Africa and definitely win it. Unfortunately, it wasn't meant to be in 2023, but as I mentioned, they should be proud of their efforts, and they should, because they've achieved a lot, South Africa. And they've played some really good cricket from start to finish. So, yeah, to finish up about South Africa, it was a good campaign, but they fell short at the last hurdle, and it's something that South Africa will need to try and fix. How do we win knockout matches? How do we go past that next hurdle? Obviously, in this semi-final against Australia in this World Cup, they fell short dramatically. They were outplayed. Pretty simple they were. So for South Africa going forward, yes, we are capable of going deep in a tournament, but how do we overcome that last hurdle, and how do we go on and win the whole thing? So I think for South Africa, they'll take a lot of learnings from this World Cup, but I think at the same time, they should be proud of their efforts and performances, because they've achieved a lot as a team, and they played some pretty good cricket throughout this World Cup, and they should be very proud of that. Thanks to everyone who tuned into our ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 coverage over these last few weeks. It's been great fun, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as we have bringing it to you. If you're watching or listening to this episode of the podcast on our YouTube channel, let us know in the comments your thoughts on South Africa's ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 campaign. We would love to hear what you have to say.